Recently, we have seen such a tremendous growth in the real estate market, and the residential housing market is growing at such a fast rate and have become so expensive that as an investor and also as a person who is looking to buy a property to live in it himself, have to think twice before to invest in it. This often leads us to start looking into areas where the prices have not grown so much, and usually such areas are the rural areas. However, now the next question comes is it wise to invest or buy a house or apartment in rural areas or not? This is what I'm going to discuss in this video, and I'm going to share with you the benefits of buying a house or apartment in rural area as well as the risk that comes with it. Hi everyone, I am Ankit from Master Investment, where we seek to be better investors than before. Let's start with the benefits of buying a property in the rural area. The first tangible benefit that you will see is the purchase price of the apartment or the house you are buying. Yes, you will find the property to be cheaper than what you will find in the metropolitan cities. Sometimes it's 50% cheaper, sometimes it's 20%, and it varies based on the area you are looking into and with which area you are comparing it to. One thing I would like to say here is in Germany, almost everywhere you will get access to the basic amenities like school, internet, electricity, groceries, etc. The only difference that comes is the number of choices or options you will have. So for example, in rural areas, you may not find many options for restaurants. There might be no big hospital in the village and you might have to go to a nearby town. But at the same time, it's not like they are really far away. You just have to go to some other city which may be 20 minutes or 30 minutes away from your village to avail those services. Okay, coming back to the benefits. First benefit was the price. Second benefit is the less traffic. You will find more greenery. It's more peaceful and quiet. Therefore, if you are someone who like quiet, peaceful place to live in, then rural areas are an obvious choice. Next is the living expenses. Living expenses in rural areas are less as compared to the metropolitan cities, and by living expenses I mean the groceries or the cost of average meal in a restaurant or the utility bills. Not only that, I have observed that the quality of vegetables, fruits and poultry products in rural areas are better than cities. Therefore, if you are someone whose priority is to live, eat and breathe healthy, you should consider buying a house in rural areas of Germany. Living in rural areas will also be good for your kids, as they will have plenty of space to play outside and can go into the forest or in the garden or park. Moreover, now you won't be scared of your kids getting hurt due to heavy traffic on the street. Another thing that I find good is that you have less distractions because there are fewer options available to you. So for example, you have few to no clubs or bars or restaurants around you, which means less distractions, and you will then automatically spend more time in nature and with your family. But this is something subjective, and if you are someone who like to go out quite often, try different restaurants, clubs or bars and enjoy the city life, then living in rural areas is not an option for you. However, if you're watching this video, then of course you are considering moving or buying an apartment or a house in rural area. So I will assume that you are someone who likes to live close to nature where there is less traffic and less distractions. In Germany, particularly, which is kind of different from other countries, or at least what I have seen in India, based on my little experience and conversation, I have heard from Germans that schooling is similar or even better in rural areas, which is also one of the reasons Germans prefer to raise their kids in small cities or small towns. It's also because their kids have less distraction towards other things and they can focus more on their studies and extracurricular activities. Kids will also be closer to the nature and they will spend more time outside the house than inside. These are some arguments which I have heard from people I know who want to move to small cities or rural areas. Well, this is something I found different in Germany if I compare it with India. I am from Delhi and I have seen that my friends who came from smaller cities, they always had a feeling that people who have studied in big cities or metropolitans had more exposure as compared to them. Also, quality of education varies drastically from region to region and within a region from school to school. And this education quality difference or gap is not so broad in different German cities. Well, this is my personal observation and I have no data to back it up. Therefore, I would ask you to take it with a grain of salt and let me know what your experiences are so far in the comment down below. Another advantage of living in rural areas or small towns is because the population density is very less, so everyone knows everyone else. Now, this could be a positive as well as a negative sign. I mean, if you are someone who likes to know your neighbors, interact with them, socialize with them, organize events together, then it would be easier to do this in rural areas as compared to big cities where no one bothers to know who is living next door. However, on the other side, if you don't like someone intruding in your personal space, being nosy and want to know what you are doing, why you are doing, then you are a city monkey. Next is the air quality. As obvious as it is, I would still like to mention this point. Air quality in rural areas is better than you find in cities. It is because they have less traffic and more trees. In big cities of Germany, air quality is still better than many other cities in the world. However, the air quality of rural areas is even better as compared to cities. We have talked a lot about the benefit of buying a house in rural areas, but what are the risks if you buy a house in rural area? As we all know, one of the reasons to consider buying in or investing in rural areas is that the houses in these areas are cheaper as compared to metropolitans, which means the growth or appreciation of price in rural areas is lower as compared to metropolitans. Therefore, this is something that you have to keep in mind and be aware that you may not see the same price appreciation of your property in rural area as compared to what you see in big cities. Another risk if you are buying a property as an investment and you want to rent it out is you have less number of potential tenants, as well as the rent that you can get is lower as compared to what you get in the cities. The reason is obvious. There is no to very less good job opportunities, low population density, and people are moving to the cities for better job opportunities, which in turn means you have less potential tenants for your apartment or house, and this brings down the rent also. However, when I was doing an interview with the CEO of the real estate firm Tauriba, Mr. Ali said it's all about competition and quality of your property. Even in rural areas, people are still there and they are living and they need property to live in. So if your property that you are offering is better than the properties on the market, then the potential tenants will still prefer your property over others. So it's all about quality of service you offer to your tenants. In metropolitans, on the other hand, because the demand for rental properties is high, even if the quality of your apartment or property is not so good, you may still find a tenant. Yes, you may not find the ideal tenant and you may get less rent. However, you will find one even if your property quality is not so good. Another risk of buying a house or property in rural area, especially for foreigners, is like in any other country, people in rural areas or small towns are more conservative. Please note, I am not using the word racist here because I myself have lived in one of the small city near Munich for 2 years and I have never experienced any racist behavior there. But yes, different people have different experiences, so I cannot say for all. However, people are conservative in small towns, and this is, I think, everywhere, which I think is also pretty normal. I mean, remember when a new student joins your class, everyone will be curious about this new student. They may stare at him, talk about him, ignore him, or even try to approach him. This is human nature. Same goes when someone new, irrespective of whether he or she is a foreigner or not, moves into a small town. So this is something that you will get used to, and once people start to know you, I think things will get better with time. At the same time, there will be cultural differences and you may have to adapt yourself accordingly and prepare yourself for it. Therefore, this is something that I think everyone should check before they buy a house or an apartment in any area. Now we know the risk, but how can we minimize them? First of all, before buying a house in rural area, just rent a house for a few months in that area and see whether you like it or not. Similarly, you can see whether your kids are gelling up with other kids, whether the people are friendly, and any other thing that you consider important. Now, if renting is not an option for you and you want a quick feedback, then you can post on Facebook. There are so many groups with people having different experiences, so post on Facebook groups and ask others what was their experience living in any particular area and whether they like it or not. Just go and visit the area of your choice, sit in restaurants, go to city center of that small town, try to interact with people, go to grocery stores, observe how they look at you, whether they are friendly, are they curious about you. I mean, you will get an idea. These are small things that you can do to minimize your risk before you buy a house or apartment in that particular area. Now, as an investor, if you want to minimize your risk, then irrespective of whether it is a city or a rural area, always observe how much rent you can get in that particular area and how quickly you can rent it out. And to do this is really simple. You don't have to go anywhere. Just check the ads of existing apartments in that area on the websites like Immobilien Scout or Immowelt. This way you will know the average rent. Now, to know how quickly property is rented, just save the property advertisements and see how quickly the ad is disabled or deactivated. How quickly a property is rented out also depends on the size of the apartment or house. Bigger the apartment or house, longer it will take to rent it out. At the end, just observe, and by this you will also understand how much average rent you can get and how quickly you can rent it. This will help you to determine whether it makes sense for you to invest in that area or not. Well, this is my 2 cents on buying a house in rural areas of Germany. I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences.